Check it out, guys. I'm back with my video response to episode 258. 258, and I'm just going to double check that it is 258. Yes, it is. It has been a while since an episode did come out, but that's okay. Unless you know it's not okay. The more the better. And hopefully there'll be a bit more of a routine. I know things get in the way and that sort of thing, but you know, you guys have quite the audience waiting in anticipation for a new episode. I've tried to go to other podcasts. I have tried, and some of them are okay, but they're not the bliss, and that's what it comes down to. So anyway, guys, apologies for me being late too. What can I say? Life got in the way, so it's just the way the cookie crumbles. It's the way the string vibrates. So anyway, let's get into it. I hope that my button-down shirt here is okay and presentable, and it is ironed, kind of ironed. I live on my own, so I do my own ironing, washing and everything and that sort of thing. So my ironing skills aren't quite perfected either, but if I was going on a date, even a blind date, I think I would just try to you know, scrummage around the room to try to get an iron, just so I could at least make it a little bit less crinkly if I'm going on a blind date. Because you never know, this girl could be unbelievably attractive, but you turn up with a crinkly shirt, and as soon as she sees you, that's it. This guy can't iron, that's it, I'm out of here. You know? And hopefully, you know, if I met Zoe Dejanel, this type of button-down shirt she would find desirable. Hopefully. Unless she is how she's an actress and just plain awkward. But anyway. Let's get into it. I've just got a few things highlighted here, guys, and let me ramble on with my video response. So, pipes and the Fender Princeton Reverb Silverface. I am not all that familiar with the history of old amplifiers and that sort of thing. However, that was really nice of Larry to just send it over. Larry seems to be quite the individual who has built up some gear over the years and is, you know, willing to let people, you know, experience it. And he always has some unique things like the Parker Fly, sending that around, and now this this Princeton Reverb, which I guess finding an actual old one would be quite rare, and one that works well too, or one that someone hasn't tried to mod. So there's terrible people out there trying to mod things, terrible. So but yeah, that's pretty cool. You know, once when I was buying my first, well, I was going to buy the first tube amp. I only had little practice amps, and I actually had this 40-watt called a Pro Amp combo with a 12-inch speaker in it, and I bought that. That was the first guitar amplifier I bought. I'm not sure if I've told this story. When I was 16, 17, probably 17, a friend of mine wanted to start a band, and I used to play the electric organ, and piano at school in my senior years. So I mean, and I was getting lessons and all that sort of thing, so I was properly going, did all my exams at the Yamaha School of Music and that sort of thing. But don't ask me to play now because I hated that instrument and I cannot play it anymore. I just refuse. So anyway, he said to me, he was into a lot of metal, and at that time in my life, I did my change from genre. I went to sort of punk music and was starting to get into metal. And he was like, you know, do you want to play in the band I'm trying to start? I was like, yeah, okay. You know, what do you want to play, keyboards or something? He goes, oh, we need a guitarist. I don't know how to play guitar. I played bass in the school band because our music class was 5 people, so we were a band. But you know, all I was doing was looking at where the like a chord sheet and just, you know, playing the root note and dabbling a little bit that way. You know, played on stage, played bass and that sort of thing at school talent quest and that stuff, but it wasn't anything fancy. No, I really didn't know what I was doing. But anyway, so I was like, you know what? Why the hell not? You know, I was getting my transition into, you could say, better music than what I previously listened to. And so I thought, okay. And I actually had my first car. If anyone out there knows, it was a Holden Gemini. Although it had a 2-litre engine in it, worked 2-litre. Exhaust kit and everything to match. The interior was redone. It was fluoro orange. But it wasn't registered. I bought it off some strange dude, and I swear half the parts were stolen anyway. And it just had so many issues, and I couldn't get it engineered properly because of the engine that was in it. it was just an absolute nightmare. So I sold that car because I didn't have a job at the time or anything, and I used that money and I bought my first guitar. It was a crappy knockoff Strat, which was terrible, but I learned a lot of things on it. And along with that, I asked the guy, for the amount of money I've got, can I do this for a band? And I had a Pro Amp. That was the brand, Pro Amp. It was a rip-off of a Marshall, a complete rip-off. Didn't sound anything like a Marshall. It sounded like absolute junk. But I played that. So anyway, so after the Pro Amp, I had a practice amp. And that's right, guys. I had the PV Rage trans-tube technology, and that was the sales pitch the guy said to me. And I was still new to playing the instrument. I didn't know what I was doing, and the guy was just like, you know what? Yeah, people with tubes. I didn't even really know what tubes were at the time. You have to remember, this was back in the late 90s. The internet was just taking off. I didn't have a computer at all. I didn't even know how to use a computer properly. And yeah, so, I was a poor student. So what did I do? I didn't really buy that many guitar magazines either. I borrowed them off some people. So my knowledge was so limited. And he was just trying to talk up tube amps, and he's like, yeah, same thing. If you close your eyes, you can't tell the difference. They've just made it more reliable and all this sort of stuff. And the price was great, so I bought this 15-watt tiny little practice amp, and I thought it was the best thing in the world because it sounded a hell of a lot better than the Pro Amp. Obviously, it wasn't as loud, but it was just so much better than that rubbish amp I had. And for a while, I thought trans-tube technology was the best thing in the world. And then I went shopping many years later, after I actually heard a few tube amps, and I realized, wow, this thing I've got sucks balls. So I was actually looking at getting a Fender's Blues Junior, Fender Blues Junior, the little 15-watt tube amp. And I was sort of talking to people. I was getting more guitar magazines, and I actually bought a computer. And I got the internet, so all I was doing was looking up stuff about guitars. That was it, amps, anything to do with it. And everyone's raving about the Fender Blues Junior, saying, this is the staple of small tube amps and that sort of thing. I was like, what? All right, yeah, it's got a decent EQ on it and everything. It's not just one knob and that sort of stuff. Great. And I started saving my money. I had a crappy job. I was just saving my money because I wanted to buy this amp. And I think at the time, in the early 2000s, here I saw it was around $1,300, which is a plain rip-off, but there's only a handful of music stores around where I lived. So I went out and I got this, I was going to buy this amplifier. I went to the music store and I plugged in, I think I was playing Stairway to Heaven or something like that, and I was thinking, it cleans nice. The distorted sounds weren't all that great. And the guy's like, you got to turn it up. So we turned it up. It was okay, but I just found that the amp was so treble happy, unbelievably treble happy. I think it's a 12-inch speaker, It's just so treble happy. And I just wasn't quite into that Fender sound. And I realized, I prefer the more of the Marshall sound, I guess you could say, really. So I was quite lucky that I actually took the time to buy it rather than just be took the time to try it before I bought it rather than be just excited, young idiot. Yeah, here, take my cash, just give me the thing and I'll go. Yeah, that's the only experience I've had with the Fender amplifier in that respect, Fender tube amp. But the clean sounds were great. It's just the crunch sounds weren't really my cup of tea, and I noticed I was really backing off the treble. It was just way too bright for my standards. But anyway, yeah, so pipes, that's fantastic. So you've got two amplifiers with two tones, and I can see, like, if you want something for a heavier gain range, but with those two amplifiers, for them, can't you just put a pedal in front of it? Like a type of metal distortion pedal or something like that. I always found that, with a nice clean channel, get the clean channel so it's sort of just breaking up, then pump it with a bit of volume from a distortion pedal, make sure you're a noise gate, and you get great sort of metal tones out of it that way. But yeah, with high gain settings, I was close to buying a Mesa Boogie once. I was going to get the 50-watt single rectifier. I think that's what they call it. But anyway, and like the head and cab. But then even 50 watts when I was trying, it was just way too loud for me. It was just unbelievably loud. and you know, it sounded good and everything. And I was kind of thinking about the price and that sort of thing, and I ended up not buying it at the time. Lucky I had a friend with me at the time. We just think about it a bit more. But anyway, that was my little things with amplifiers. So the last amp I bought is that one behind me, or there, the Blackstar HD5 Mini Stack. And I bought that sight unseen without even trying it, because they weren't out in Australia, and I ordered it. It took about 4 months to come in. And I was thinking, well, everyone's after these things, so I could probably just sell it easily if I don't like it. And when I first got it, I thought it was great, but I didn't quite like it until the speakers broke in, and I was playing around with the EQ more, miking it up differently, and then, then I realized how valuable that little tiny amp is. But yeah, really cool. I've rambled on way too much about this. You guys want to skip ahead to about 10 minutes, 11 minutes, and we'll on to the next topic. So anyway, King and Queens of Sorrow with Rod and J-Man and friends. I did take a listen to that, and the vocals, those female vocals are just absolutely amazing. I mean, the guitar playing, production, and accompaniment are spot on, but having a really powerful vocalist like that, and the sort of catchy tunes, that is what makes a fantastic song. And I read J-Man's article about on the Booker J. Wood. I always forget what it's called. Anyway, on his blog spot, and writing about how he's in a band. You don't have to physically be there with a band. And I realise a lot of supergroups, when they record big albums, sometimes they've never been in the same room to record anything with that album. So the way that technology has progressed in helping us go forward, that's such an important thing, I think, and gives a lot of people the opportunity to play music when they wouldn't have that opportunity before. But I think it's pretty good music. It's not really my cup of tea with what I would listen to, but I took a listen. I did enjoy it, and it was something, if it came on the radio, I wouldn't switch stations or anything. I'd listen to it. That's the type of music it would be for me. So I think it's really good, and it could make it in that genre. So all the best for the band. What is next on my list? The interview with Joe Matera. Now, Joe is a really cool guy. He actually contacted me. I guess he found out I was also from Australia, just to say hello. He found out, I guess, through the String Bliss forum, and sent me an email. I just started talking. Really nice guy, really cool person to talk to. He mentioned that his CD was available at a place called Red Eye Records, which I forgot about. And I used to go to Red Eye Records in the city every now and again to sift through some of the CDs, because they'd have things that a lot of the major places wouldn't have, especially in the sort of rock and alternative department. But and strangely enough, that's got to be one of the few CD shops. I guess there's CDs still now, aren't they? CD shops available, because even when you go to the shopping centre, there aren't any. There aren't any places you can buy CDs, apart from the big places, I guess, similar to what these guys say, it's called Walmart, like Kmart. We've got a place called Big W. They sell CDs, but they're all from like 10 years ago because they're cheap. So it's good to hear that there's still one out there, still a couple. But yeah, I spoke to Joe a few times. He's helping me out. Got a few problems with work and that sort of thing, and Joe's offering his help. So it just goes to show, this complete stranger has come out, contacted me. We just started chatting, and he's putting himself out there and trying to help out all the people he knows and that sort of thing. It's a really cool guy. But onto the music. I really like the song, the center song, Joe's song. It was very different, a lot of classic vibe to it. And I like his statement that he made about solos, what he does. He's very melody heavy, and I think that is fantastic. I liked the example of Nirvana Smells Like Teen Spirit, with having a solo, which is the vocal line. That automatically relates. It's a really catchy vocal line, so it's a really catchy solo. And being able to incorporate that into your playing, I don't think there are a lot of people out there that can do it really well. And with that center song with Joe's, I think he's really got it on the money there. So because I don't have a job at the moment, but when I do, I'm gonna make the trip to Red Eye Records and purchase that CD. So it's been a long time since I bought a CD. If I'm feeling lazy, I'll just go on to CD Baby. But anyway, so because the city is a long way from where I live. Yeah, just that sort of that thing, melody heavy and stronger. You know, a lot of classic riffs. I'm not really into that much classic rock, but especially with Australia and Sydney with their limited radio stations, there's really not very many. What you hear is that sort of classic rock, and even if you don't like it on those radio stations, it just gets into your head, and that's what you familiarize yourself with. So, you know, there's something about the music that has got this familiarity, if I can say it properly, or nostalgia to it, that makes you want to grab this attention, and you take the time to listen to it. Because when I was driving, listening to the podcast, and the song came on, and you know, I kind of switched off a bit from the road, and you know, took my time to listen, which is the wrong thing to do when you're driving. But anyway, that's cool. Another thing is that this is a pretty broad, and it's probably the wrong thing to say about these two artists. But however, when I was first getting into sort of shred and I don't know what you would call it, soloist, guitarist. I'm trying to think of the genre that they actually are in. Depends on who you talk to, I guess. But when people told me, you know, the big two people were Steve Vai and Joe Satriani. So I had more experience with Joe Satriani than Steve Vai. I still don't know a lot of Steve Vai's stuff. A friend of mine, his girlfriend's dad at the time, he's big into any instrumental music, especially guitar-heavy music, and he had the Joe Satriani live in San Francisco DVD, which he let me borrow. So I was watching that, and then I saw a sort of a G3 concert with Steve Vai, Joe, and I can't remember who the other guy was. Might have been Joe Petrucci, but and so then I obtained a Steve Vai CD, and I was listening to a little bit. It's kind of still skipping through tracks, but what I sort of noticed, now this is probably completely wrong, but from that little experience is that I prefer Joe Satriani because one song that sticks out in my mind is Crush of Love. There is this melodic riff, so he would have a riff for the verses, a riff for the chorus, a riff for the bridge, and you know, then solos and so forth, and things to bring it all together with the accompaniment. And I just thought that was great because it was like a vocal line. It brings back something familiar, brings back something that was played earlier in the song, and keeps your attention there because you're kind of waiting for that as well. But then when he bursts into these solos and that sort of thing, they're still soulful, they sound huge, and it's grabbing your attention. And then you're, you know, I think subconsciously you're hoping for that sort of chorus riff or verse riff to come back after that, so you can go back to resolution from what you're hearing. And yeah, I mean, I think it's really, really cool how that happened. And Steve Vai, I don't know what I was listening to, probably not the right stuff, but all I heard was shred, 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 shred. So it didn't really appeal to me as much as the melodic way that I was relating to Joe Satriani. But you know, then things changed. Someone who I really, really like is Andy Timmons. With I really like his music, especially the album Resolution, and that one came out. I think it's great. It's fantastic. You know, I think that's supposed to be like a three-piece band too. However, Joe Matera, I really like the music. He seems like a great guy on that interview as well. So people out there, that is an Australian accent. My accent isn't quite that Australian because I guess of my upbringing, you know, coming from multicultural families and that sort of thing. I do have quite the Aussie accent, but Joe Matera, that's more of the Australian accent that you would hear between all walks of people in Australia. Some of the guys on the forum were saying they found it hard to understand him. I mean, I can understand that because I find some Americans hard to understand and some Brits and that sort of thing. And the Germans too, when they're speaking English, that's a bit weird for me sometimes. But yeah, I mean, we're used to a certain thing. So, but yeah, no, I mean, of course, I understood Joe perfectly fine. You know, the Australian accent is a bit of a cross between everything, but I think that the way we talk, it's quite clear and precise. Some people say it's a little bit fast. I don't know. Still, he was a cool guy, cool music, a lot of experience, and really genuine. I really liked the fact that he said, you know, what when PT asked, what's one common attribute of us that successful musicians say, or do, and it's all about the music. It's not about the money. It might be about the money, now, because they're earning, crap loads of money and don't want to go back to working a day job, obviously. But in the beginning, it's all about the music. It's just about being able to play, and all you want to do is make enough money to eat and buy your gear. That's the way I see it. I mean, I don't play guitar as often or really much at all anymore. I should be, but when I was really into playing music and that's all I did, it wasn't really about the fame. All I kept thinking about was I just want to be up there on stage playing. I just want to play the music. So I've never had a desire to own like a Ferrari or anything like that, or have a mansion and things like that sort of thing. But yeah, if that came with the package, I'm not going to complain. But I think that's totally right. Even there's a couple of, especially the classic bands out there, when you hear their first album, it's just so different. I don't know if they've got a different producer that's pushed them in one direction, or they're forced to buy to produce an album or write an album quickly or quicker than what they normally do, or when they're on tour and they've got the stresses of doing other things on tour. But it just seems like a lot of bands with the first album, there's so much more soul, so much more passion into that music. So, yeah, I mean, but then again, if you're a touring musician, you got to think of it as well. You're only going to get better, because every time you're out there playing a gig, that's still practice. You're still getting the fluid motion through your hands and that sort of thing, and getting better and better as you play a gig. You're playing the instruments, so in my mind, that's still practice. That's still, you're still gaining more and more playtime. But anyway, let me stop talking about this before I ramble on. But cool interview, PT. I was really impressed, and really pleased to hear the interview with Joe Matera, and a really cool guy. All right, let's talk about something right here. The Jazz 3 pick. So I've got the three types of Jazz 3 picks right here. They're always in front of me. I have the carbon fiber max grip in black. I've got the carbon fiber max grip in red. And I have the regular Stiffo black Dunlop pick. Now this might upset you a little bit, PT, but what I'm going to do is, find the better side, if I can just hold this up to the camera. Come on, camera, you say you autofocus. Autofocus. That's not working. There, that's better. You see that there? I've actually taken a blade and put some divots in this so it has the grip on it, because I prefer the sound and the ease of playing, because of the material. It doesn't quite grab the strings. It sort of glides over the strings of the regular Stiffo Dunlop Jazz 3s to the carbon fiber. Now I like the carbon fiber. It's strangely light. How heavy is a pick? But it's strangely light. But I just like the sound of the other one. So yeah, and the ease of playing of the regular Stiffo ones. I got onto these. I was talking to Larry Ashbrook, which you guys know on the forum, or I'd say Larry Boeing, but no one would know who he was. So he was telling me like that's what he used. I was talking to him on Skype actually, and this was a while ago. And I tried Dunlop Jazz 3s a long time ago, and I was rubbish at them. I don't think my technique was anywhere near what it needed to be to use the pick, and I just found it really strange. And like PT said, strumming, because back then all I was doing was strumming, and I just couldn't do it. However, I've sort of forced my way into doing them, because for some reason I could just play faster with these picks, especially doing lead stuff and that. It was just absolutely, it's just mind-boggling how you can just change a pick and automatically, bump up the metronome a little bit more, and it's as easy as it is normally. Because I used to use the regular Dunlop nylon 1mm, and to be quite honest, I bought them because they were black. But I got used to playing those, and then now I play exclusively the Jazz 3s. I even play them on acoustic. I use them for strumming as well. It's strange. I was just working out a song or playing something the other week, and I picked up my acoustic, because it's just a bit easier when you're in a rush, don't have to plug anything in. And first thing I did, I just grabbed I grabbed actually the black carbon fiber max grip, and I just started playing. I just started playing with that. I didn't even realize that I was playing with a small pick. I was strumming fine, sounded good. I was just playing like that, and I find that they make you play more accurately as well. You do hit your nails a little bit if you don't cut them and that sort of thing, but that's not an issue. And they're great for pinch harmonics, of course. You don't have to think about your pick and readjust or anything like that. But one of the other reasons I went to it, I found that I went away from the Dunlop nylon 1mm regular size pick, and I was playing. It was just like a no-name pick that they have at the music stores, and those big like fish bowls, and there's 20-cent picks and whatever. And I got the whole bunch of really stiff green ones, but they had their regular size, but with quite a sharp point on them. So I thought to myself, I'm going to give these a try, and I found I was much more accurate with those picks. Especially doing your typical metal, chugga 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 squeal sort of thing, and that sort of stuff. I just found them much easier to play with, much more comfortable, and that sort of progressed into the smaller Jazz 3s. I've tried a Jazz 3 XL, which is in between the size, and that's pretty good. But I got used to the Jazz 3, so I was overshooting with the amount of pick that's coming out from my fingers when holding the pick. So I've gone back to the regular small ones. Now, PT, I understand that you may not like the grip part. I don't really find it a problem because I don't hold a pick terribly hard. However, I can see that. Now, I'm going to try to throw a picture in here, but wait till you see this. I'm just looking at it now. I've got it up there. These are called I wrote it down in my notes. Here it is. The Ibanez Grip Wizard picks. They actually have sandpaper on them, a piece of sandpaper glued to each side of the pick. Regular size picks, they come in, I guess, light, medium, heavy, and they actually have sandpaper on them. I picked one of those up when I was at a music store once, just to hold in my hands, and straight away I just thought, this is ridiculous. It felt rough, felt wrong, and I put it back and I didn't buy it. But now I'm using, because I still use the carbon fiber Jazz picks, I use them quite a lot. Mainly for the grip aspect too. But I mean, I can sort of understand that if you've got, if you're heavy with your fingers and you're really putting it down, then yeah, I mean, it's going to be a bit of a problem for you. But the grip actually wears away too on the Jazz 3 max grip picks too. So, and I completely understand that. But I am looking at Gorilla Snot on my my other computer here. And maybe I'll try to throw a picture of this in too. It actually looks like snot. It's a small little, it looks like one of those lip balm containers. But to me, it actually looks like snot. So, but yeah, I mean, I guess it's all about personal preference. But yeah, a lot of people rave about Jazz 3s. I think it depends on your playing, depends on the style, depends on how much effort you're willing to put into a pick and that sort of thing. But yeah, I've gotten a few dirty looks from people because I carry a Jazz 3 in my wallet when I pick it up, and they made the comment, "Well, Jazz 3, sorry," as if it's like hard to use and things like that. Like, yeah, okay, whatever, idiot. But yeah, and everyone else I know, which aren't too many people who actually have guitars. I don't necessarily play them, but they have them. They say, if you've got a pick up, I give them a Jazz 3. They're automatically like, "Oh no, have you got a normal one?" So yeah, interesting there. Next up, the Barter Wars. I think this is a great. Oh, excuse me, a bit of a drink. It's water. It's not wine. And anyway, so the Barter Wars. I think this is a great thing for the host to do, especially competing as well. Looks like Pipes has got the upper hand because I read on the forum that he managed to trade a monitor for a 2x12 cab. Now that is interesting because I have an old 19-inch monitor. I'm wondering if I can change that, like flat panel monitor, swap that for something musically related somehow in this strange land of Sydney. So I mean, I'm not going to use it anymore unless this thing dies. I hope not, because I don't want to go from a 24-inch to a 19-inch monitor on my desktop. But Yeah, that's pretty cool. 2x12 is something I always wanted as well, especially with that little lamp there. But yeah, I think that's a pretty cool concept. And if you are a this type of sleazy, smooth salesman, you probably could barter up to something really, really big eventually. So yeah, until that happens on the due date of September 17th, let's hope it's some good bartering, and we'll find out what actually happens. So I really like that idea, and it was cool to have Pipes have so passionate about it, and say, this is what we're doing, and it's got to be musical related and so forth. That's pretty cool. The only experience I've had with watching a reality show like that is watching I can't remember what they're called, something like Modern Pickers or something Pickers, where they go out to people's in the middle of like sort of farm area in the States, and these two guys sift through all this junk and find like antiques that they could sell, old jukeboxes and old parts of cars, hubcaps, old oil tins, like cooking oil tins and things like that. So and you hear them sort of bargain for money, but I guess it's the same concept as well. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. What is next on the list here? I just want to talk about the Discman. I said Dickman, didn't I? The Discman. Okay, so I remember those things back in the 90s, and I wanted one so bad. I didn't get my first Discman until maybe 2000, 2001. So what actually happened is how did I get it? Right, so I was rocking a tape deck until about 2000. And yeah, I mean, you put your tape in, whatever, off you go. Chew through batteries a little bit, but whatever. I was rocking that, and I remember like people had Discmans all the time, and I was a little bit embarrassed once I got on the bus, and everyone's swapping out their discs, and I just whack out my tape, turn it around, put it back in, close it up with a big clunk, hit the play button, and off and off I went. However, I remember there was a competition with Coca-Cola. If you buy something like 13 bottles of Coca-Cola, like the small drinking bottles, get all the labels, and you can go to, back then, one of the CD stores. I think it was called HMV at the time, or maybe it was Sanity. They were the two big Australian ones. I think Sanity bought out HMV in recent years. However, so you take these labels, and then you would pay like $5 or something like that as well. Cover the rest. You'll go there to these CD shops or record stores and exchange it for a Discman. I just thought that was the best thing. I don't drink Coke, but I know a lot of people that do. So I'm just like, hey, can I have your label, sort of thing. And I was even a little bit embarrassed. I don't want to walk up to a place with labels and that. So I got this girl from work, who I think had a thing for me, to go up and get it for me. So anyway, I got this Discman. I thought it was, yes, the best thing in the world, And so I started borrowing CDs off people, and I went to my collection. And I remember the very first time I got it, I got home, put the batteries in it, put in a CD. I was just listening to it on my desk, and it's like, yeah, it's awesome. The best thing in the world. I have crappy earbuds, but I was just so excited. Next day, I went for a walk with it, and hell no. It was the worst thing in the world. I couldn't even walk 3 or 4 steps without it skipping, and I just thought to myself, oh, this is why it's practically free. It's just, but then I even got I used a friend's skip-resistant one, and it was alright if you were just sort of walking, but if you had to run to somewhere, it wasn't too great either. So that's my experience with a Discman. That's the only Discman I had, and it upset me so much, I threw it in the bin. I just couldn't handle it. But I do remember back in the 90s, there were a couple of guys that were like friends of friends. They were a little bit older of us, and they used to drive us around when we were like 15, 16. We didn't have cars or licenses, and I remember this one guy, I can't remember his name, but he had a Discman that had like a little cord into one of those tape things that you put the tape into your tape player, and then underneath the Discman on his center console where he stood it was this little like sort of spring-loaded pad that had Sony written on it that Discman sat to, and that was the car kit. And that was pretty good. It was a big, heavy car, so I didn't really bump around too much. Yeah, and played CDs. I thought that was amazing. I was like, wow, they're playing CDs through the car. You know, who would have thought? Because back then, CD players were about $1,000 for it to go into a car. So yeah, I mean that was pretty cool. It was a pretty cool thing back then. But the damn Discman, it let me down. Can't eat no Grey Poupon in that. Yes, I know the reference. I'm as old as you guys. Anyway, let's get to the end of this. I've been talking for way too long. Let's talk about Snoozy's outro track. I've heard that before, and I remember Snoozy. I saw a couple of things on the F-book where he's doing that walk. I'm not really sure exactly what that's about, but I saw pictures of his shoes that were absolutely trashed. And yeah, I really like his lead playing and the sound, and that sort of grit to the vocalist voice. It's pretty cool. And then, like I said before, you know, they bring back a bit of the riffs from the beginning and that sort of thing, fill it up, make it complete, and it's a really cool tune. Really enjoyed it. Hopefully Snoozy's doing really well out there, because we haven't heard from him for a while. Anyway, I'm just going to leave on one thing. What did the hosts think of the 1987 album? That's one thing that was missing from the episode, which I think a lot of people who are on the album are probably waiting in anticipation to know what the hosts thought about it. You know, what was your guys' favourite tracks and so forth. But anyway, guys, I've been talking for almost 40 minutes, I think. So I'm going to cut this video out now. I'll also put up an audio version of the video as well, so you guys don't have to stare at my face while looking at me. But anyway, guys, until next time, catch you later.